Complete the pattern. 8 times what equals 16? 8 times what equals 160? And so on and so forth. Well, it looks like these numbers are very similar, and all of these numbers are 8. So there is definitely a pattern going on here. So let's start out with the top. 8 times what is 16? 8 times 2 is 16. Now the next number down is 8 times what is 160. Now the only difference between 16 and 160 is this 0 attached at the end. That means it's being multiplied by 10. So basically 8 times what times 10 is going to be 160? Well, 8 times 2 times 10. So really all you do is attach a 0. So it looks like the pattern is every time I attach a 0 to the right of this, I attach the same amount of zeros. So 8 times what is 1,600? 8 times 200, because it has 2 zeros, and so do you. So 3 zeros, let's draw a 2 with 3 zeros, and that's 2,000. Let's draw a 2 with 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, that's 20,000. So the next one will have 5 zeros to be 200,000, and the next one will be 6 zeros, 1, 2, 3, comma, comma. So 8 times 2 million is 16 million. Makes sense. 8 times 200,000 is 1,600,000. Now, of course, we wouldn't say it that way, 1,600, but you get the idea, and that's how we complete the pattern. Complete the pattern. We have 2 times 8 equals what? 2,000 times 8 equals what? 2 million times 8 equals what? Well, 2 times 8 is 16. I can handle that. Now the trick is if you're multiplying numbers that are multiples of a power of 10, so something like, in this case, 2 times 1,000, or something times 10, or something times a million, whatever, what we do is we multiply those first digits first. 2 times 8 is 16. Then we count the zeros to the right of that 2. 1, 2, 3. We write out that many zeros to the right of it, and so we end up with 16,000. So if 2 times 8 is 16, then 2,000 times 8 is 16,000. Makes sense. So do the same thing. 2 million times what is 8? Well, 2 times 8 is 16. 2 million has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros attached to it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, comma, comma. And so 2 million times 8 is 16 million. Multiply 500 times 9. A quick shortcut, whenever you're multiplying numbers that are a multiple of something that's a power of 10, so 500 is the same as 5 times 100. What you do is you multiply those first digits until you hit the zeros. 5 times 9 is 45. Then on the right side, you attach that many zeros to what you get. So 0, 0, because there's 1, 2 zeros here. Put your comma, and you end up with 4,500. Multiply 6 times 4,000. Now your trick is whenever you multiply anything that is a multiple of a power of 10. So in this case, a power of 10 is like 1,000, and this is 4 times 1,000. What you do is you multiply the first digits until you get to your zeros. So 6 times 4 is 24. Then what you do is you attach the number of zeros you have at the end of your numbers. So since I have 1, 2, 3 zeros attached to 4,000, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 zeros attached to 24. So 6 times 4, 1,000 is 6 times 4, 24,000. And that's our answer. Multiply 70 times 4,000. Now the trick, whenever you multiply numbers that are multiples of a power of 10, like multiples of 10 or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000, like both of these are, what you do is you multiply the first digits that are non-zeros. So 7 times 4 is 28. Then what you do is you attach the zeros at the end of each number. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros here. So I'm going to attach 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. Okay, count over, put your comma where it needs to be, and 70 times 4,000 is 280,000. Nikki's baseball card collection fills 8 binders. There are 400 baseball cards in each binder. How many baseball cards in total are in Nikki's collection? So you have 8 groups of 400, so that's going to be 8 times 400. Now, before you reach for a calculator or before you try to do some crazy math, don't. Whenever you multiply a number to something that is a multiple of a power of 10, so 400 is the same as 4 times 100, what you do is you multiply the first digits that are not 0. 8 times 4 is 32. Now you attach the zeros at the end of each number. So you have 1, 2 zeros there, so 1, 2 zeros get attached. Put a comma where it needs to be, and 8 times 400 is 3,200. So this is a word problem. How many baseball cards in total are in Nikki's collection? 3,200 baseball cards. And that is our answer. A candy factory makes 800,000 pieces of candy each day. How many pieces of candy will the factory make in 6 days? So what we need to do is this is 6 groups of 800,000. So this is 6 times 800,000. Now before you look at that number and say, that's huge, I can't do it, there's a shortcut. Whenever you take a number and multiply it to something that is a multiple of a power of 10. In other words, this is 8 times 100,000. What you do is you multiply the first digits that are not 0. 6 times 8 is 48. Then you count the zeros at the end of each number. In this case, we just have this number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. Then you attach those zeros to the end of 48. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Count over 1, 2, 3, put a comma there, 1, 2, 3, put a comma there. So 6 times 800,000 is 4,800,000. Now this is a word problem and it's asking for how many pieces of candy will the factory make in 6 days? 4,800,000 pieces of candy. That's a lot. That is a lot. Alexis purchased 80 ounces of silver. The silver costs $30 per ounce. What was the total price of her purchase? All right, so Alexis gets 80 groups that cost $30 per group. That's going to be multiplication, 80 times 30. Now, whenever you're multiplying numbers that are also multiples of powers of 10, in other words, 8 is 8 times 10, 30 is 3 times 10. What you do is you multiply the first digits that are non-zeros. So 8 times 3 is 24. Then you count how many zeros are at the right of each number. So here's a 0 and here's a 0, and you attach that to the end of 24. So this ends up being 2,400. Now the question is asking what was the total price of her purchase? So we're not going to just circle 2,400. The total price is going to be $2,400 was the total price of her purchase. And that's it. Find the value of 8 times 10 to the third power. Okay, well, let's write this out as repeated multiplication. 8 times 10 to the third power can be written out as 10 times 10 times 10. Now, let's deal with the tens first. 10 times 10 times 10. The shortcut is you write out a 1 and attach 1, 2, 3 zeros at the end. So 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. So what is 8 times 1,000? Well, 8 times 1 is 8. And so 8 times 1,000 is 8 with 1, 2, 3 zeros at the end. So we end up with 8,000. Find the value of 56 times 10 to the third power. In a previous video, what I did is I wrote out 10 to the third power as 10 times 10 times 10. But I'm not going to do that here. Here's a shortcut. If you multiply a number by 10 to the whatever power, all you do is find out what that power is and attach that many zeros at the end of your number. So this just ends up being 56,000. And that's it. Find the value of 22 times 10 to the sixth power. Well, in a previous video, what I did is I wrote this out 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. That's 6 times. But that's too much writing. Here's a shortcut. If you multiply a number by 10 to the whatever power, you find out what that exponent is, what that power is. So this is 6. And then you attach that many zeros to the end of 22. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You put your commas down, and 22 times 10 to the sixth power is 22 million. Estimate the product, round each factor to the nearest 10, then multiply. All right, so if we're going to round 69 to the nearest 10, here's our 1's place value, here's our 10's place value, so we're focusing on the 6, and we look at the number to the right of 6. 5 or above, give it a shove. 4 or below, let it go. Well, 9 is way above 5. So 6 is going to turn into 7, and we're going to turn that 9 into a 0. So 69 gets rounded to 0. Easy peasy. Let's drop down the times symbol. And then we're going to do the same thing with 51. Rounding 51 to the nearest 10 has me look at the 1's and then the 10's value. So we'll circle the 10's. Look to the right of it. 5 or above, give it a shove. Nope. 4 or below, let it go. Yep. So we're going to leave 5 as a 5 and then turn 1 into a 0. Now we have 70 times 50. Now whenever you're multiplying numbers that are multiples of a power of 10, in other words, things that are like times 10 or times 100 or whatever, you multiply those first digits first. So 7 times 5 is 35. Then you look at your remaining zeros. I have a 0 here and a 0 here. That's 2 zeros left over. Attach 2 zeros to the end of your 35. And so you end up with 3,500. So the estimate of 69 times 51 is about 3,500. Estimate the product, round each factor to the nearest 100, then multiply. All right, so let's round 266 to the nearest 100. We have our 1's place value, our 10's place value. Here's our 100's place value. Look to the right of it. 5 or above, give it a shove. 4 or below, let it go. Well, 6 is 5 or above, so we're going to shove 2 up to 3 and turn all of these numbers into 0. So 266 rounded to the nearest 100 is 300. Now we're going to round 319 to the nearest 100. So 1's, 10's, 100's, let's circle it. Then we look to the number to the right of it. 5 or above, give it a shove. Nope. 4 below, let it go. Yep. So we're going to leave 3 as 3 and turn these numbers into zeros again. So both of these rounded off to 300. Now we multiply 300 times 300. Well, whenever you multiply numbers that are multiples of powers of 10, like 300 is 3 times 100, you multiply 3 and 3. Multiply the digits that are non-zeros at the very beginning. 3 times 3 is 9. Then you look at your remaining zeros. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros left over. So I'm going to attach 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros at the end. So we count 1, 2, 3, put a comma there. And when we multiply 266 times 319, we can estimate that it's going to be around 90,000. It's not 90,000, that's not the answer, but it's a decent estimate, and that's what we got here. Estimate. A ketchup company purchased 21 shipments of tomatoes. There were 39,237 tomatoes in each shipment. About how many tomatoes did the company purchase in all? All right, so I have to do 21 groups of 39,237. So that's multiplication. So let me write those numbers out. Now we're estimating here. So what we're going to do is we're going to round both of these numbers to the nearest whatever number seems appropriate. 21 is awfully close to 20, so I'm going to turn 21 into 20. 39,237 is awfully close to 40,000, so I'm going to turn you into 40,000, and now we can estimate things. Now, whenever you multiply numbers that are multiples of powers of 10, like 20 is 2 times 10, and 40,000 is 4 times 10,000, you multiply the first digits that are not zeros first. So 2 times 4 is 8. Then you count how many zeros are at the end of each digit. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. You attach 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros at the end of that 8, and now you have 800,000. Since this is a word problem, though, the question is asking about how many tomatoes did the company purchase in all? Well, we will say about 800,000 tomatoes. And that's your answer. Estimate. A jewelry company made 97 emerald bracelets. They used 20 emeralds to make each bracelet. About how many emeralds did the company use? Now, this is an estimation. Okay, so what we're doing is we're trying to find out if there's 20 emeralds per bracelet and 97 bracelets, we are finding 97 groups of 20. So 97 times 20. However, we're estimating here. So 97 is a few numbers away from 100. So I'm going to turn 97 into 100 and do 100 times 20. Now, whenever you multiply 100 to a number, you multiply 1 to that first digit there, or any other digit that's there. But in this case, it's going to be 1 times 2. Write out your 2. Then what we do is we count how many zeros are at the end of each number. 1, 2, 3. We take those 3 zeros and attach them to that 2. 1, 2, 3. So we end up with 2,000. Since this is a word problem and the question is asking about how many emeralds did the company use, we will say about 2,000 emeralds. And that is our estimate. Multiply 101 times 7. All right, whenever you are multiplying using what's called the standard algorithm, you take your number down here and you take turns multiplying it to all the digits up here in order from the ones to the hundreds in this case. So 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 0 is 0. 7 times 1 is 7. That's it. We're done. 101 times 7 is 707. Multiply 95,826 times 8. Let's start out with our 8 and multiply to all of these digits up here, right to left, remembering that we have to probably carry over digits from time to time. So 8 times 6 is 48. You write out your 8 and put the 4 up here above the next digit to the left. Now we multiply and add that 4. So 8 times 2 is 16. 16 plus 4 is 20. So you write out your 0 and carry over our 2. Now we repeat the process. 8 times 8 is 64. 64 plus 2 is 66. Write out your 6. Write out your 6. 8 times 5 is 40. 40 plus 6 is 46. So write out your 6, carry over the 4. 8 times 9 is 72. 72 plus 4 is 76. So since that's our last digit, we're going to write out 76. Let's count from the right. 1, 2, 3, put a comma, no more commas, and we end up with 766,608. Multiply 3,867,081 times 2. We're going to take our 2 and multiply it to every digit up here, right to left, remembering that we're probably going to have to carry over some numbers. So 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 8 is 16. So write out your 6 and carry that 1 over. 2 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. 2 times 7 is 14. So write out your 4, carry over the 1. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 plus 1 is 13. Write out your 3, carry over the 1. 2 times 8 is 16. 16 plus 1 is 17. Write out your 7, carry over the 1. Finally, 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. You write out 7. Let's count from the right and draw out our commas. 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3. And we end up with 7,734,162. Multiply 521,778 times 7. Let's write this out in the standard algorithm. So 5, 2, 1, comma, 7, 7, 8. And we're going to multiply that to 7. Now, whenever we're multiplying a large number to a single digit, we're going to take the digit down here and multiply it to every digit up here, right to left, remembering that we're probably going to have to carry over. So 7 times 8 is 56. So you write out your 6, carry over the 5. 7 times 7 is 49. 49 plus 5 is 54. So write out the 4 and carry over a 5. 7 times 7 is 49. 49 plus 5 is 54. Write out your 4, carry over the 5. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 plus 5 is 12. Write out your 2, carry over the 1. 7 times 2 is 14. 14 plus 1 is 15. Write out your 5, carry over the 1. Finally, 7 times 5 is 35. 35 plus 1 is 36. So since we're done, you write out 36. And then you count from the right. 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, comma, and we end up with 3,652,446. Last year, 4 people each paid $221 for an insurance package. How much did the people pay in total? So 4 groups paid $221. That's multiplication. So we're going to do 4 times 221. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write it out using the standard algorithm, and I'll put the larger number on top. So 221 times 4. You are allowed to do that. Now we multiply 4 to 221 by starting from the right and moving our way to the left. So 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 2 is 8. So the number we end up with is 884. But since this is a word problem, it asks how much did the people pay in total? Well, that's money, so we're going to say $884. And that's our answer. Kelsey bought 6 pieces of land for $701,500 each. How much money did she spend? All right, well, if she buys 6 groups of things that cost $701,500, you're going to multiply these two numbers together. So we're going to do 6 times $701,500. Now I'm going to set this up using the standard math algorithm, but I'm always going to put my larger number up top. You're allowed to do that. 701,500 times 6. Now when we multiply, we take our digit, we multiply it to every digit up here, remembering that we might have to carry over a few times. 6 times 0 is 0. Okay. 6 times 0 is 0. Okay. 6 times 5 is 30. So we write out our 0, carry over a 3. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 plus 3 is 9. 6 times 0 is 0. And 6 times 7 is 42. So since that's our last digit, we're going to write all of 42 out. Now we count from the right, 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, comma, and we end up with 4,209,000. Now, since this is a word problem and it's asking how much money did we spend, well, we're going to say $4,209,000. And that is how much Kelsey spent. Kelsey's rich. Multiply 23 times 20. What we're going to do is we're going to use the standard algorithm to figure out how to multiply 2 digits times 2 digits. You take your number on the bottom and start with the ones digit and then multiply it to every digit up there. 0 times 3 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. All right, friendly enough. Now when you go to the second digit, the tens digit on the bottom number, you have to include a 0 automatically. Then you do the same thing. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. Once you've completed all of your rows, you add the rows together. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 6 is 6. Nothing plus 4 is 4. And you end up with 460. And that's your answer. Multiply 36 to 57. Whenever you multiply 2 digits times 2 digits, you start at the bottom number and begin with the ones digit first. So the 7 here. We're going to multiply 7 to 6 and to 3 in that order, remembering that we're going to have to probably carry over. So 7 times 6 is 42. Write out your 2, carry over the 4. 7 times 3 is 21. 21 plus 4 is 25. So since we're done that row, we write out all of 25. Now, since we're done the first row, I'm going to get rid of the numbers we used so I don't accidentally use them again. Now, on the bottom number, we move to the tens digit. So we're going to automatically place a 0 in the ones digit before we even begin. Now we're going to multiply 5 times 6 and then to 3, remembering that we're going to probably have to carry over. 5 times 6 is 30. Write out your 0, carry over the 3. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 3 is 18. Write out 18 underneath. Now when you're done multiplying all of your numbers, you're going to add the numbers that you got. 2 plus 0 is 2. 5 plus 0 is 5. 2 plus 8 is 10. Write out 0, carry over a 1. And 1 plus 1 is 2. So we go from the right, 1, 2, 3, put a comma there, and we end up with 2,052. And that is our answer. Multiply 59 times 67. Well, I'm going to multiply this using the standard algorithm, so 59 times 67, like that. Now, whenever you multiply 2 digits to 2 digits, you're going to go with the bottom number first and multiply the ones digit to both of these numbers from right to left, remembering that we're probably going to have to carry over. So 7 times 9 is 63. Write out your 3, carry over the 6. 7 times 5 is 35. 35 plus 6 is 41. Write out all of 41. Now that we're done with 7, I can get rid of that 6 because I don't want to accidentally use it again. Now we take our bottom digit and go to the tens row. Whenever you do this, you're going to automatically put a 0 in the next row. Now we're going to repeat the process. We're going to multiply 6 to these numbers up here going right to left and remembering that we're probably going to have to carry over. So 6 times 9 is 54. Write out your 4, carry over the 5. 6 times 5 is 30. 30 plus 5 is 35. Write out 35. Now that we're done all of our rows, we're going to add these numbers up. 3 plus 0 is 3. 1 plus 4 is 5. 4 plus 5 is 9. Nothing plus 3 is 3. Let's count for our commas. 1, 2, 3. Put a comma there. And we end up with 3,953. And that is our answer. Multiply 470 times 78. Whenever we multiply a 3-digit number to a 2-digit number, we're going to start with the bottom number and start with the ones digit and multiply right to left, remembering that we're probably going to have to carry over a few times. So 8 times 0 is 0. 8 times 7 is 56. So we write out our 6 and carry over our 5. 8 times 4 is 32. 32 plus 5 is 37, so you write out all of 37. Now, once we're done with that first digit, we cross out any leftovers and we move on to our tens place value. We're going to repeat the process, multiplying right to left, remembering that we're probably going to have to carry over. So, before we do that, we always have to put a 0 whenever we begin the tens column. Now we can start. 7 times 0 is 0. 7 times 7 is 49. Write out your 9 and carry over your 4. 7 times 4 is 28. 28 plus 4 is 32. So you write out all of 32. And once you're done that, you can add the rows. So 0 plus 0 is 0. 6 plus 0 is 6. 7 plus 9 is 16. Write out your 6. Carry over a 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. Nothing plus 3 is 3. We go from the right, we carry over 1, 2, 3 to make our commas, and we end up with 36,660. And that is our answer. Multiply 96 times 182. Whenever you multiply, try to put the larger number up top. So 182 times 96. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my bottom number and start with the ones place value and multiply it to the top number one at a time, starting from the right and remembering that I'm probably going to have to carry over a few times. So 6 times 2 is 12. Write out your 2, carry over your 1. 6 times 8 is 48. 48 plus 1 is 49. Write out your 9, carry over your 4. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 plus 4 is 10. Write out 10. Now that I'm done with the 6, I'm going to cross out these numbers because I don't want to accidentally reuse them. Now, whenever we move to the tens digit on the bottom number and we start a new row, we have to include a 0 underneath the ones digit up here. Now we're going to repeat the process and multiply 9 to all these digits right to left. 9 times 2 is 18. Write out your 8, carry over your 1. 9 times 8 is 72. 72 plus 1 is 73. Write out your 3, carry over your 7. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 plus 7 is 16. Since we're done, write out all of 16. Now what we do is we add those rows. 2 plus 0 is 2. 9 plus 8 is 17. Write out your 7, carry over your 1. 1 plus 0 is 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. 1 plus 6 is 7. And nothing plus 1 is 1. Go to the right, count to the left for your commas, 1, 2, 3, comma, and we end up with 17,400. 472. And that's our answer. Multiply 6,993 times 52, a 4-digit times a 2-digit. What we're going to do is look at our 2-digit number and take our number in the ones place value and multiply it from the right to the left, one at a time, knowing that we're probably going to have to carry over a bunch of times, especially with those 9s living there. So 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 9 is 18. Write out an 8, carry the 1. 2 times 9 is 18. 18 plus 1 is 19. Write out a 9, carry over a 1. 2 times 6 is 12. 12 plus 1 is 13. Write out your 13. We're done with that row. Now, get rid of the 1s because we don't want to accidentally reuse them. And we're going to do the same thing with a number in the tens place value. Before we get started, put a 0 in your ones place value. Then we begin going right to left, remembering that we're probably going to have to carry over. 5 times 3 is 15. Write out a 5, carry over the 1. 5 times 9 is 45. 45 plus 1 is 46. Write out a 6, carry over a 4. 5 times 9 is 45. 45 plus 4 is 49. Write out a 9, carry over a 4. 3 times 6 is 30. 30 plus 4 is 34. Since we're done, write out all of 34. Now we add these two numbers together. 6 plus 0 is 6. 8 plus 5 is 13. Write out a 3, carry the 1. 1 plus 9 is 10. 10 plus 6 is 16. So write out your 6, carry over the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 9 is 13. Write out a 3, carry over a 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 4 is 6. And then nothing plus 3 is 3. Go from the right, count 1, 2, 3 commas, and we have a weird number, 363,636. Lots of 3s, lots of 6s. Kind of crazy, but that's our answer. Multiply 72,858 times 63. We have a 5-digit number being multiplied to a 2-digit number. What you're going to want to do first is go to the bottom number and start with your number in the ones place value and work your way right to left, knowing that you're probably going to have to carry over a few times. So let's do that. 3 times 8 is 24. Write out your 4, carry over a 2. 3 times 5 is 15. 15 plus 2 is 17. Write out your 7, carry over a 1. 3 times 8 is 24. 24 plus 1 is 25. Write out a 5, carry over a 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. 3 times 7 is 21. And since that's the last number, we're going to write it all out. Now let's get rid of these numbers here so they don't accidentally use them again, because now we're going to do the same thing with 6. Now whenever you start your tens number, you're going to automatically drop a 0 in the ones place value. Now we go right to left like we just did, knowing that we're probably going to have to carry over a few times. 6 times 8 is 48. Write out your 8, carry over a 4. 6 times 5 is 30. 30 plus 4 is 34. Write out your 4, carry over a 3. 6 times 8 is 48. 48 plus 3 is 51. Write out your 1, carry over a 5. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 plus 5 is 17. Write out a 7, carry over a 1. 6 times 7 is 42. 42 plus 1 is 43. Since our last number is that guy, let's write out 43. Now we add these numbers together. 4 plus 0 is 4. 7 plus 8 is 15. Write out a 5. Carry over a 1. 1 plus 5 is 6. 6 plus 4 is 10. Write out a 0. Carry a 1. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 plus 1 is 10. Write out a 0. Carry a 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 7 is 9. Write out a 9. 2 plus 3 is 5. And nothing plus 4 is 4. Go to the right, count out your commas, 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, and we end up with 4,590,054. That is our answer. Multiply 145,171 times 67. Now, whenever we set this up for multiplication, always have the larger number up top. So 145, 171, and then the smaller number on the bottom. It's just easier that way. Now we're multiplying a 6-digit number to a 2-digit number. So what we're going to do is go to the bottom number and take turns multiplying 7 to all of these right to left, knowing we're probably going to have to carry over a few times. So 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 7 is 49. Write out your 9, carry over a 4. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 plus 4 is 11. Write out your 1, carry over a 1. 7 times 5 is 35. 35 plus 1 is 36. Write out a 6, carry over a 3. 7 times 4 is 28. 28 plus 3 is 31. Write out your 1, carry over a 3. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 plus 3 is 10. Since that's our last number, write out all of 10. Now let's get rid of these numbers because we're going to do the same thing with 6 and I don't want to accidentally reuse these numbers up here. Now that we move to our tens place value, we're going to make sure that we automatically put a 0 underneath the 7 in our ones place value, and then we repeat the process. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 7 is 42. Write out your 2, carry over your 4. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 plus 4 is 10. Write out your 0, carry the 1. 6 times 5 is 30. 30 plus 1 is 31. Write out your 1, carry over a 3. 6 times 4 is 24. 24 plus 3 is 27. Write out your 7, carry over a 2. And 6 times 1 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 8. Write out your 8. And now we're going to add these huge numbers together. 7 plus 0 is 7. 9 plus 6 is 15. Write out your 5, carry over the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. 6 plus 0 is 6. 1 plus 1 is 2. 0 plus 7 is 7. 1 plus 8 is 9. Go from the right, 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, and we end up with 9,726,457. And that's your guy. A movie theater ordered 31 boxes of candy. Each box contained 199 pieces of candy. How many pieces of candy is that in all? So we're talking about 31 boxes. Each box is 199. 31 groups of 199 is multiplication. So we're going to do 31 times 199. Now I'm going to set up the regular old math algorithm, and when I do this I always put my larger number on top. So I'm going to do 199 times 31. Now this is a 3-digit times a 2-digit. So what we're going to do is take the bottom number and multiply the 1 to all of these numbers right to left. So 1 times 9 is 9. 1 times 9 is 9. 1 times 1 is 1. Easy peasy. Now, when we move to our next number over, we always drop a 0 in the ones place value, and then we repeat the same process with 3, knowing that we are going to have to carry over a few times. So 3 times 9 is 27. Write out your 7, carry over the 2. 3 times 9 is 27. 27 plus 2 is 29. Write out your 9, carry over the 2. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. And we're done. Now we add these numbers up together. 9 plus 0 is 9. 9 plus 7 is 16. Write out your 6. Carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 9 is 11. Write out your 1. Carry over a 1. And 1 plus 5 is 6. So the number we get is 1,169. Now this is a word problem, so let's answer using words. How many pieces of candy is that in all? 6,169 pieces of candy. And that's your answer. A university bookstore ordered 94 shipments of notebooks. There were 9,457 notebooks in each shipment. How many notebooks did the bookstore order in all? So 94 shipments with 9,457 notebooks in each one. So this is 94 groups of 9,457. So we multiply 94 times 9,457. Now I'm going to write out the standard way of multiplying this, and I always like to put my larger number on top, so I'm going to write out 9,457 times 94. Now when you multiply a 4-digit number to a 2-digit number, you go to the bottom number and start out with the number in the ones place value and multiply right to left, knowing that we're probably going to have to carry over a few times. So 4 times 7 is 28. Write out 8, carry over a 2. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 plus 2 is 22, the Taylor Swift special. So write out your 2, carry over a 2. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 2 is 18. Write out your 8, carry over a 1. 4 times 9 is 36. 36 plus 1 is 37. And since that's our last number in the row, we're going to write out all of 37. Now let's get rid of these numbers so they don't accidentally use them again, because we're going to repeat the process with 9 here. Now when we jump to 9, we always make sure that we put a 0 in the ones place value whenever we're multiplying our number in the tens place value. We repeat the process, and yeah, we're going to have to carry over a bunch of times. Ugly numbers here. So 9 times 7 is 63. Write out your 3, carry over a 6. 9 times 5 is 45. 45 plus 6 is 51. Write out a 1, carry over the 5. 9 times 4 is 36. 36 plus 5 is 41. Write out your 1, carry over a 4. 9 times 9 is 81. 81 plus 4 is 85. And since that's our last number, we're going to write out all of 85. Now we add these two numbers up. 8 plus 0 is 8. 2 plus 3 is 5. 8 plus 1 is 9. 7 plus 1 is 8. 3 plus 5 is 8. And nothing plus 8 is 8. Let's go from the right, 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3. And this is a word problem. So the question is asking how many notebooks did the bookstore order in all? Well, 888,958 notebooks. And that is our answer. Multiply 466 times 432. This is a 3-digit number times a 3-digit number. When you multiply 3-digit numbers, you go to your bottom number and start with the ones place value and multiply to every digit up here right to left. Now, we may have to carry over a few times, so keep that in mind. Let's do that. 2 times 6 is 12. Write out a 2, carry over a 1. 2 times 6 is 12. 12 plus 1 is 13. Write out a 3, carry over a 1. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. Since that's our last digit in a row, we write out 9, and we're done with the 2 here. Now let's cross out these numbers so that I don't accidentally do it again. Don't want to reuse those numbers. Now we're going to move to our tens place value in the bottom number. When you do that, you automatically put a 0 in the ones place value, and then you repeat the process, multiplying 3 to all of these numbers right to left, not forgetting to carry over. 3 times 6 is 18. Write out an 8, carry over a 1. 3 times 6 is 18. 18 plus 1 is 19. Write out a 9, carry over a 1. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 1 is 13. And since that's our last digit, we write out all of 13. Now let's cross out these numbers so that I don't accidentally use them again. And let's move to our final number in our final row. Now this is the hundreds place value. What we do here is we attach zeros in both the ones and the tens place value before we start multiplying 4 to everything. Now we multiply 4 to these numbers right to left, knowing we're going to have to carry over. 4 times 6 is 24. Write out your 4, carry over a 2. 4 times 6 is 24. 24 plus 2 is 26. Write out your 6, carry over a 2. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 2 is 18. Write out all of 18 because that's our last digit. Now we add these three numbers up together. 2 plus 0 is 2. 2 plus 0 is 2, so you get 2. 3 plus 8 is 11. 11 plus 0 is 11, so write out your 1 and carry over a 1. 1 plus 9 is 10. 10 plus 9 is 19. 19 plus 4 is 23. Write out a 3, carry over a 2. 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 plus 6 is 11. Write out a 1, carry over a 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 8 is 10. Write out a 0, carry over a 1. And 1 plus 1 is 2. So let's go from the right, count out our commas, 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, we're done. And we end up with 201,312. And that is our answer. Multiply 6,453 times 695. When multiplying a 4-digit number to a 3-digit number, start out with your bottom number, go to the ones place value, and multiply that 5 to every digit right to left, knowing we're probably going to have to carry over. So let's do that. 5 times 3 is 15. Write out a 5, carry over a 1. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 plus 1 is 26. Write out your 6, carry over a 2. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 plus 2 is 22, the Taylor Swift special. Write out your 2, carry over a 2. 5 times 6 is 30. 30 plus 2 is 32. Since that's our last digit, we write out all of 32. Now that we're done with this row, let's get rid of these numbers so that I don't accidentally do them again, because we are now going to move to the 9. When we move to the tens place value to continue multiplying, we must include a 0 in the ones place value for that row. Now we multiply right to left like we did, knowing we're going to have to carry over. 9 times 3 is 27. Write out your 7, carry over a 2. 9 times 5 is 45. 45 plus 2 is 47. Write out your 7, carry over a 4. 9 times 4 is 36. 36 plus 4 is 40. Write out your 0, carry over a 4. 9 times 6 is 54. 54 plus 4 is 58. 58 gets written out in its entirety because we are now done. Since we are done this row, let's cross out these numbers so that I don't accidentally use those again. Then we move on to our final digit, which is in the hundreds place value. So before we begin, if it's the hundreds place value, I have to add 2 zeros to the right before I start. Now I multiply right to left, knowing I'm going to have to carry over. 6 times 3 is 18. Write out your 8, carry the 1. 6 times 5 is 30. 30 plus 1 is 31. Write out your 1, carry over your 3. 6 times 4 is 24. 24 plus 3 is 27. Write out your 7, carry over the 2. 6 times 6 is 36. 36 plus 2 is 38. So write out all of 38. Now what we do is we add up these numbers. 5 plus 0 is 5. 6 plus 7 is 13. 13 plus 0 is still 13. Write out your 3, carry over the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 7 is 10. 10 plus 8 is 18. Write out your 8, carry over the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 0 is 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. 3 plus 8 is 11. 11 plus 7 is 18. Write out your 8, carry over the 1. 1 plus 5 is 6. 6 plus 8 is 14. Write out your 4, carry over the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. Go from the right, write out your commas, 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, comma, and we end up with 4,484,835. And that's your guy. Multiply 17,002 times 911. So I'm going to set this up using the regular old algorithm. Always put your number on the top. It's just easier that way, in my opinion. So we're going to do 17,002 times 911, just like that. Now this is a 5-digit number times a 3-digit number. What I'm going to do first is go to the bottom number and multiply the number in the ones place value to everything up here going right to left. Now these numbers are friendly. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 1 is 1. Nothing crazy there. Now we move to our next place value on the bottom number. When we do that, you have to include a 0 all the way to the right before you begin. Now we follow the same exact process, multiplying 1 to every number starting from the right and moving your way to the left. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 1 is 1. Again, same exact numbers because we multiplied 1 both times. Now this is going to be a little bit more frustrating. We move on to the 9, which is in the hundreds place value. That means you include 2 zeros before you begin, and in this case we're going to have to carry over a few times. 9 times 2 is 18. Write out your 8, carry over the 1. 9 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. 9 times 0 is 0. 9 times 7 is 63. Write out your 3, carry over a 6. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 plus 6 is 15. Write out all of 15. Now we're going to add these 3 numbers. Like so. 2 plus 0 is 2. 0 plus 2 plus 0 is 2. 0 plus 0 plus 8 is 8. 7 plus 0 plus 1 is 8. 1 plus 7 plus 0 is 8. 1 plus 3 is 4. Nothing plus 5 is 5. Nothing plus 1 is 1. Go from the right, 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, comma, and we end up with 15,488,822. Big number. A paper company sells packages containing 1,444 sheets of paper. How many sheets of paper are in 256 packages? So we're going to have 256 packages where there's 1,444 sheets in each. This is multiplication. So we're going to multiply 1,444 times 256. Now I'm going to set this up the way I always do and do 1, 4, 4, 4 on top, and 256 on the bottom. Always put your larger number on top. It's just easier that way. Now we are multiplying a 4-digit number to a 3-digit number. Start out with your number on the bottom and go to the number in the ones place value. Multiply that to every number up here going right to left and knowing you're probably going to have to carry over. So 6 times 4 is 24. Write out 4, carry over a 2. 6 times 4 is 24. 24 plus 2 is 26. Write out a 6, carry over a 2. 6 times 4 is 24. 24 plus 2 is 26. Write out a 6, carry over a 2. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. Write out your 8, and we're done with this row. Let me cross out the 2's because I'm going to repeat the process with 5, and I don't want to accidentally use these numbers again. So now we go to our number in the tens place value. You're going to automatically place a 0 in the ones place value whenever you do that and before you begin. So repeat the process. 5 times 4 is 20. Write out a 0, carry over a 2. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 plus 2 is 22. Write out your 2, carry over a 2. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 plus 22 is 22. So write out your 2, carry over a 2. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 plus 2 is 7. Write out your 7, and you're done with that row. Let's get rid of these numbers so I don't accidentally reuse those because we're going to do this one more time. When we move to our hundreds place value, you're going to attach 2 zeros all the way to the right before you begin. Now you take that 2, multiply them to everything going from right to left. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 4 is 8. And 2 times 1 is 2. Now we're going to take these 3 numbers and add them all up. 4 plus 0 is 4. 6 plus 0 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. Write out a 6, carry over a 1. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 plus 2 is 11. 11 plus 8 is 19. Write out your 9, carry over a 1. 1 plus 7 is 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. Write out your 6, carry over a 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. Now we go from the right to the left, put out your commas, and we end up with 369,664. Now this is a word problem, so this has to do with sheets of paper. So we're going to say 369,664 sheets of paper. And that is your answer. Lily has 176 bottles of confetti. Each bottle contains 12,657 pieces of confetti. How many pieces of confetti does Lily have in all? So if you have 176 bottles and each bottle contains that much, you're going to multiply. So let me set up a multiplication problem. I like to put my larger number on top. It's just easier for me that way. And it's going to be times 176. Now we are multiplying a 5-digit number to a 3-digit number. When you do that, you go to the bottom number, start with your number in the ones place value, and multiply right to left, knowing we're probably going to have to carry over a bunch of times. So let's get started. 6 times 7 is 42. Write out your 2, carry over a 4. 6 times 5 is 30. 30 plus 4 is 34. Write out your 4, carry over a 3. 6 times 6 is 36. 36 plus 3 is 39. Write out your 9, carry over a 3. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 plus 3 is 15. Write out your 5, carry over a 1. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. We're done with that row, and I'm going to cross these numbers out because I'm going to do the same thing again with 7, and I don't want to accidentally use those numbers again. Now, whenever we start the second number here, okay, in our tens place value, we automatically put a 0 underneath the 2 in our ones place value before we start. Now we take 7, multiply right to left, knowing we're going to have to carry over. 7 times 7 is 49. Write out your 9, carry over a 4. 7 times 5 is 35. 35 times 4 is 39. Write out a 9, carry over a 3. 7 times 6 is 42. 42 plus 3 is 45. Write out your 5, carry over a 4. 7 times 2 is 14. 14 plus 4 is 18. Write out your 8, carry a 1. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 plus 1 is 8. We're done with that row, so let's get rid of these numbers because I don't want to accidentally use them again. Now we're going to move on to the ones in the bottom number, which is our hundreds place value. When you do that, always include 2 zeros in that third row before you begin. Multiply 1 to every number right to left. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. Now we have 3 numbers, and we're going to add all 3 of these numbers up. 2 plus 0 is 2. 4 plus 9 is 13. 13 plus 0 is 13. Write out your 3, carry over a 1. 1 plus 9 is 10. 10 plus 9 is 19. And 19 plus 7 is 26. Write out your 6, carry the 2. 2 plus 5 is 7. 7 plus 5 is 12. 12 plus 5 is 17. Write out your 7, carry the 1. 1 plus 7 is 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. 16 plus 6 is 24. Write out your 4, carry the 2. 2 plus 8 is 10. 10 plus 2 is 12. Write out your 2, carry the 1, and 1 plus 1 is 2. Go from the right, 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, comma, and the number that we get is 2,247,632. Now this is a word problem, and it's asking how many pieces of confetti does Lily have in all. She has 2,247,632 pieces of confetti. That's a lot. And that's our answer.